right, hello again, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me on Fredricka Whitfield Live Pictures right now at Oskaloosa High School, because in any moment, Donald Trump, Republican presidential candidate, will be entering the room and speaking to a full house there. But conspicuously absent is any representation of the state's largest newspaper, especially after in an editorial saying earlier this week that Donald Trump's actions and some of his words have been disgraceful. And so Donald Trump disinvited their presence. And this is what the Des Moines Register said. If he were merely a self-absorbed B-list celebrity, his unchecked ego could be tolerated as a source of mild amusement. But he now wants to become president, which means that he aspires to be the leader of the free world and the keeper of our nuclear launch codes, end quote. So here to talk about it, Ford O'Connell, a political analyst and a Republican strategist who worked on the 2008 McCain-Palin presidential campaign. Also with me, CNN contributor, former Democratic South Carolina State Representative Bakari Sellers. All right, so Ford, you first. If anybody wants to be president, wouldn't they want to include all media outlets at a rally to get the kind of coverage they need?
Well, guess what? If Donald Trump wants to win the presidential nomination on the Republican side, this is a good thing. A lot of conservatives hate the mainstream media.
What do you mean? What's a good thing? What do you mean?
Banning the Des Moines Register. Basically, the Des Moines Register wrote an editorial telling him to drop out of the race. He wants to project himself as a fighter who won't back down. So guess what? His followers are going to see this as a great move. Really?
Bakari, do you see it that way?
I think that his strategy is so bombastic, so unorthodox, that it's actually working. People see Donald Trump as not bound to the same rules that mainstream D.C. is bound to. And this last move with the Des Moines Register is just something else that's uncharacteristic of any other candidate, but it seems to be working. And it's kind of dangerous, I must say.
Guys, let's not forget here that the Des Moines Register fired the first shot by telling Trump to drop out of this race, okay? And remember, he's going to need the Des Moines Register if he actually becomes a nominee in the general election. But right now, this works for him. And guess what? It's going to fire up and energize his supporters.
So for you say it was really incendiary of the newspaper, firing the first shot, so to speak. But at the same time, Donald Trump loves the attention. So why would he not want to capitalize off the kind of attention that he's getting from the state's most popular newspaper?
Because he's getting it from everywhere. He's clickbait for all media sources, whether it's actually state newspapers, national news. We're talking about it right now. So guess what? He's getting all the attention he wants, and he's willing to do any interview, and no other candidates are willing to do interviews at the drop of a hat with any outlet.
And Bakari, the newspaper, at least in that editorial, is saying that, quote, his run even threatens to derail his campaign, but the manner in which we choose our president, talking about his style, is making an impact on the presidential process and that it's dangerous.
Well, I actually agree with the Des Moines Register, but that doesn't matter because I'm not a GOP primary voter. What is happening right now is Donald Trump is leading in the polls day in and day out. He's actually registering this new style of politics, if we'll call it that, is actually registering with a great deal of voters. I don't necessarily understand it, but it's not my primary either.
And what does that mean that it's registering? Meaning, there are huge crowds, and Donald Trump will say, people love me, and look at the crowds and the people who are here to greet me. Are they there because they are supporters of him and his message, or is it because it's, entertainment? It's become sort of a sideshow that, people can't stop looking at.
I think it's both. I think he has become somewhat of a sideshow. I think that he is a larger-than-life figure, but he is speaking to a certain base. There's no other candidate that's talking about immigration in the terms that he is. Now, I don't agree with it, but he's talking about immigration, and he's striking a chord with many Republican base voters throughout the country, and those people want to have those issues talked about. And the sad part about it is no other candidate. We saw the former governor of Ohio announce that the current governor of Ohio announced that he's running for president of the United States, and no one even turned the channel to watch, all because Donald Trump was on TV.
So then Ford, I wonder, I wonder if you were, willing to dispute that maybe it's not a sideshow. This has become the main event.
Well, it is the main event, and I think that if you underestimate Trump, you do so at his peril. He's taking page 6 tabloid tactics and bringing it to presidential politics. And not only do his opponents in the Republican primary not know how to deal with it, neither does the mainstream media. And a lot of Republican voters are sick and tired of the establishment wing and the mainstream media telling them who to vote for and who they should like. And for them, this is extremely refreshing. And not to mention, he's throwing in a lot of energy and charisma that keeps us all talking 24/7.
All right, and now let's talk about another person who's on the campaign trail, vying for the White House. We're talking about U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, who called Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell a liar, and he said that right on the Senate floor over some amendments to a funding bill. Let's take a listen to what he said.
I cannot believe he would tell a flat-out lie. And I voted based on those assurances that he made to each and every one of us. What we just saw today was an absolute demonstration that not only what he told every Republican senator, but what he told the press over and over and over again was a simple lie.
Ford, what's at the root here?
This spat couldn't come at a better time for Ted Cruz, who's running for president, okay? He sees this as corporate cronyism, and guess what? He's a populist fighter, and Trump mania is sucking all the oxygen out of the room, and he can't get his message across. This is a way for him to remind voters that he's a populist fighter, and he will fight for them should Trump blow up.
So, Bakari, was this an attempt to try to upstage Trump, who is sucking out all the oxygen, as people are putting it?
Of course it is. It was nothing but a gimmick. Just last week when we asked Senator Cruz to condemn Donald Trump for his ignorant comments on Mexicans coming across the border, I believe his quote was, "I've never impugned the character of any Democrat or Republican, and I won't start today." But then he goes to the Senate floor and impugns the character of his leader. I find it to be a little bit disheartening and disingenuous. Ted Cruz is out there trying to find some space in this very, very large Republican field, and he's not doing it quite well.
All right, Bakari Sellers, Ford O'Connell, thanks to both of you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Good seeing you.
Thank you for having us.